Hello and welcome to my new channel. I hope you enjoy what I intend to be the first of many journalistic endeavours presented on it. Last month, I interviewed food bank users at the Rukhsana Khan Foundation food bank in London's Walthamstow area to learn about the situations that led to them being there and about how being food bank users had impacted them. Here are the questions I asked and the answers I received. Why do you find yourself using a food bank today?
Well, because my pension won't stretch as far as it should do, and I have no other way of supplementing my diet.
Why do you find yourself using a food bank today?
I find myself using a food bank today because due to the winter time, more of my benefits money is being spent on heating, which is not only heating is in the house, but heating is in the hot water, and the oven takes a lot longer. So my electricity dwindles much more, which means I have less money for heat. You may have heard the expression heat or eat. So I have nothing, pretty much nothing in the house. I was actually scrambling around last night. I had 4 bowls of Cocoa Pops this morning and during the night because that's all I have left. So yeah, it's due to the winter time and the coldness, essentially.
Why do you find yourself using a food bank today?
Today, because basically I'm struggling financially, and it's not viable to shop in the high street markets, and the food bank helps me in that way. You know, it's very, very good people that helps you out financially and all that. So,
What is the longest period of time for which you've gone without food?
Never. I always manage to scrounge something up, and otherwise I would have to, the government would have to look after me one way or the other.
What is the longest period of time for which you've gone without food?
Well, close to without food, which was essentially bread and jam, and I think some baked beans, was during this time last year when it was also very cold, may have even been a little bit colder, where I had to turn the freezer off and turn the fridge off and throw away all the stuff because I didn't have enough electricity to run the fridge. So a lot of that I couldn't eat was then scrapped, and all I was left was lying around. So I would say about 2 to 3 days like that situation.
What's the longest period of time for which you've gone without food?
oh, it must be 2.5 weeks. Just unbelievable. It's unbelievable because I didn't know these people really existed. You know, within my area. You know, and you'll find if no one tells you, you're not gonna find it. You're not going to find it. No one's going to tell. No one tells you that's, you know, it's bad.
Are you concerned about other people potentially judging you negatively for using a food bank?
Not at all, because I must eat. It's quite simple. Everybody must eat. It's as simple as that. So, no, I'm not. So you see, I can't see why, with the 5th biggest economy in the world, and we've got food banks, which we shouldn't have. So much food is thrown away and disposed of. It's absolutely ridiculous. I've never known food banks. I mean, I was born in 49 and I can remember the rationing and everything else because it was necessary, but not now. It's not necessary one little bit. No one should be hungry.
Are you concerned about other people potentially judging you negatively for using a food bank?
Not as much now, but I was when I started. It was quite a big step for me to come in. I do notice there's some stigma attached to it, just like that was when I went in to get benefits for the first time. It's not something that you automatically, obviously, gravitate to, but needs must, so to speak. And I realised that there's an even bigger problem with other people that I've tried to bring in to this situation to help them.
Are you concerned about other people potentially judging you negatively for using a food bank?
Yeah, yes, of course, yeah. because I found it I found it very embarrassing the first time I was using it and all that lot. And when you do come out of here, when you do come out of the food bank, people do come past, they look at you and you feel as if they're judging you, you know what I mean? But I was embarrassed when I first came here, but not anymore, not anymore. They've helped me out so much, give me so much confidence in myself. Because when I came here I was really embarrassed, you know, as I say, when people coming out they was judging me, and you know, sort of, oh look, here goes the sponger, you know what I mean? And they judge you, they look at your clothes and stuff like that and thinking, why is he going to a food bank and he's got a nice pair of trainers on, a nice jacket, but no, it's very, very good people, yeah.
There does exist research that has highlighted people in the UK who have felt embarrassed at having to rely on food banks. Overall, the available evidence indicates that factors behind people using food banks, to the extent they do in the UK, include, but are not limited to, problems concerning benefit payments, low incomes, and debt. To stay afloat, the Rukhsana Khan Foundation relies on donations from, among other sources, local residents and a nearby Tesco branch. While there I also interviewed the food bank's founder and director, 47-year-old accountant Jahangir Khan. What prompted you to set up this food bank?
Around about 5 years ago, I was thinking about doing something for the local community. God's been very kind to me personally and in business sense. And having spoken to my mother about what I could do, she suggested that I do something which was more locally orientated and something that I could see that was actually benefiting the community. At that time, there were many articles going on about people struggling, people in good and well-paid jobs, unable to put 3 meals on the plate or on the table for their children. And also the buzzword around that time, about 4 years ago, was food banks. You know, people struggling, not having enough food, having to go to food banks to just get by. It was just sort of common sense for me that if I'm going to open a charity, if I'm going to set it up, it should be something to do locally and where I can help people who are vulnerable or in a poverty situation. 2013 August is the first day we opened our food bank, and since that day we have not looked back. We've gone strong each year in terms of numbers that we've actually helped out on a weekly basis and the different types of organisations that have actually supported us throughout the years in helping people out of the poverty trap. It's not just about the food, it's about making sure people who come to the food bank are able to get out of the little trap they're in by making sure they go to the right organisations, to the right people to help them out of the crisis that they're in. We're not a short-term solution. We seem to have been a long-term solution for some of these people because the government haven't really done enough to help these vulnerable people.
Are there any myths that you have heard expressed about food bank users that you think urgently need to be corrected?
There are so many myths about food banks, a lot of misunderstanding about what food banks actually do and how they operate and who they actually help. Firstly, food banks, do they just give food away? Not necessarily. 80% of our stuff, okay, is food because that's what people need to be nourished and to survive to a daily basis. But we give away toiletries, we give away advice on how to help them with their electricity, with their gas, and we get donations of toothbrushes, toothpaste, toilet paper. One of our clients, bless him, the most important thing in his basket is toilet paper. How sad is that? That people look at toilet paper as such a basic necessity that they don't have themselves. And we take things like that very for granted. So that's one of the main myths. You know, food banks don't just give people out food. Give advice, we give other amenities that helps them get through the daily life. I mean, one of the myths that we have is that a lot of people who use the food bank come here so they can buy and save their money to buy junk food, dog food, cat food. And I think that is such a short-sighted view. Many of the clients who come to the food bank come here as a last resort. It's not because they have a cat or a dog that needs to be fed. It's because they have children. They have a family that they can't support and they can't give 3 meals to. And for example, local businesses like the Tesco's and the managing sanitation, they do a very good job making sure that we receive good quality food for our clients. That it's nourishable food, it's not damaged, it's within date, and something that they're going to enjoy.
What, if anything, can the UK government or indeed local governments in the UK do to help people who must rely on food banks?
First of all, the government need to recognise the problem that is existing here in the UK. And why do food banks need to be existing to help people in the first place? They're open because there's a need. If there was no vulnerability in local deprived areas, food banks would not exist and it would not be an issue. Now, I don't know if the government has done any kind of report on this kind of issue, if they're looking to publish something on how food banks operate and what they can do to support them. If there is, I would love to see it. I'd love to see what steps they're taking to help people who are vulnerable. And a lot of the issues that people have in terms of using food banks is benefits. Sometimes the benefits just don't arrive on time. They're legally entitled to benefits. Everyone falls on hard times. Not everyone is blessed with a full-time job with a good wage. And if people need their benefits to survive, to support their family, why does the government take such a long time to process applications? Recently, the Universal Credit, they've backed down on the time frame of processing applications now. Is that still going to help us? Might not help me. Will it help our clients? In some ways, maybe. But still, they don't do enough. Recognize the problem. Find out why do people need to use food banks. Food banks are meant to be a short-term thing, like I mentioned before. Our aim is to help people through a short-term thing so they don't need us. But that's not what's happening. We can only do so much as a local organisation. The government needs to step in to recognise and put funding in place to ensure that these people get the right type of help and support so they don't fall into crisis. If that is done, we don't need to be here. Food bank is not an issue anymore.